Do you notice that in recent days, the biggest restaurants we grew up with are falling, one by one, across America? Burger King has closed over 400 locations in just 3 years. Pizza Hut has lost more than 500 stores since 2019, and Red Lobster, once a household name, is now drowning in over $1 billion of debt for millions of working-class Americans. These restaurants were a lifeline, a place to stretch a few bucks and still laugh together at the end of the day. But now, it's the death of the familiar, the collapse of comfort in everyday life. It's sad watching the places that fed us, raised us, and brought us together slowly fade into dust, with closures sweeping the nation and affordable dining vanishing. Are we reaching a point where the average American has no real choice left at all? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today we will reveal 15 big restaurant chains are in deep trouble in 2025. Let's begin. Number 1, Pizza Hut. It was once the warmest light on a cold American street. Now, in many towns, it's just a hollow shell with a faded sign and a for-lease notice taped to the window. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, Pizza Hut was a national landmark for working-class families. At its peak, it operated over 7,500 locations across the United States. Kids celebrated birthdays under red roof tiles. Families gathered on weekends without worrying about the bill. It was the first pizza brand to offer mass delivery, and in small towns, it was the only night out many could afford. At that time, Pizza Hut wasn't a luxury. It was more like a piece of everyday joy. Fast forward to 2025 and the silence is louder than ever. According to Yum Brand's latest report, U.S. Pizza Hut sales only grew 1% last year, while Domino's jumped 5%. In the past 5 years, hundreds of dine-in locations have vanished. In Midwestern states like Ohio and Indiana, over 20% of former outlets now sit vacant, some with furniture still inside, like a memory someone forgot to erase. But what happened wasn't sudden. The reason is because Pizza Hut clung to the past. While Domino's built smart delivery apps and Papa John's refreshed its menu, Pizza Hut re-released old items and delayed tech upgrades until 2018. And then came the wave of rising costs. Mozzarella and pepperoni are both over 25% more expensive than they were in 2021. Labor costs soared, franchisees cut hours, and slowly, the jobs disappeared. When a Pizza Hut closes in a small town, what really disappears, it's not just a place to eat. It's a rescue for a mother who used to clock evening shifts now drives 40 minutes for work. A student who paid tuition with delivery tips now skips meals. A grandfather who took his grandkids there every Saturday now has nowhere to go. In areas with no grocery store nearby, no other restaurant in town, Pizza Hut was the last accessible table for many. And as more of these tables are taken away, we're left asking, what else will working families lose next? Speaking of loss, what's happening at the next restaurant on our list may hit even closer to home. Because for many Americans, it was once the only place open when everything else shut down. Number 2, Burger King. The long-lived king now loses his throne. You can only hear disappointment in empty booths, shuttered doors, and the quiet sting of yet another place gone, not long ago. Burger King stood as one of America's most recognizable fast food names. By 2015, the chain had more than 7,000 locations across the country. For many, the Whopper was a reliable meal after a long shift, a quick lunch between classes, or a family treat that didn't break the bank. Its slogan, "Have it your way," reflected a time when Americans still believed that choices, even small ones, belonged to them. But in 2025, that golden crown is slipping off fast. More than 400 Burger King restaurants have closed in the U.S. since 2020. 2 of its biggest franchisees, Tom's King and Meridian Restaurants Unlimited, filed for bankruptcy in 2023, affecting over 200 stores. Meanwhile, Burger King now lags behind McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, and Wendy's in market share, and its North American growth has slowed to under 4%. Even a $400 million Reclaim the Flame initiative hasn't reversed the trend. The cracks run deep, while competitors refresh their menus and embrace technology. Burger King still leans heavily on the Whopper. Many stores are outdated, dim lighting, broken seating, long waits. Gen Z has moved on. They want cleaner food, customizable options, and a brand that aligns with their values. Burger King feels stuck in yesterday. And then there's the economic chokehold, ingredient prices, beef, chicken, oil, have climbed by 20 to 40% in just 3 years. States like California now enforce minimum wages of $20 per hour in fast food, squeezing every ounce of profit from the business, with shrinking margins. Franchisees slash hours, let go of staff, or simply shut down. But it's the fallout for everyday Americans that hits hardest. For low-income workers, losing access to Burger King means sacrificing one of the last meals under $5. For retirees or rural residents, the closure of the only affordable spot within 10 miles forces impossible trade-offs. Gas or groceries, rent or dinner. When a single Burger King closes, as many as 30 workers may be left scrambling. And when the Whopper, once the icon of just enough for hardworking families, begins to vanish. What's truly slipping is the idea that this country still has a place for them at the table. But if you think this is unsettling, wait until you hear about the next restaurant, now facing a fate no one thought possible. Number 3, Subway. You used to think it was the safest choice on the block. Now, even the Eat Fresh sign feels like a broken promise. Not long ago, Subway was America's unstoppable lunch machine. In 2015, it operated more than 27,000 locations across the country, more than McDonald's, more than Starbucks. For working parents grabbing lunch between shifts, for seniors looking for something light and affordable, Subway was the answer. It wasn't fancy, but it felt trustworthy. You could walk in, point to your ingredients, and walk out with a meal that didn't drown in grease. But in 2025, that empire is shrinking fast. By early 2024, the total number of Subway restaurants in the US had dropped below 20,300, nearly 7,000 fewer than a decade ago. Over 500 stores have closed annually since 2020. In August 2023, the founding family sold Subway to Rourke Capital, a private equity firm now racing to stop the bleeding. Franchise owners, many of whom are immigrants or retirees investing their life savings, are walking away because stores barely make enough to survive. With average yearly sales at just $420,000 per unit, less than half of Jersey Mike's, it's a losing game. The downfall isn't just about numbers, it's about trust lost. A lawsuit in 2021 revealed that Subway's tuna sandwich allegedly didn't contain real tuna. Past scandals, including the imprisonment of a former brand ambassador, only deepened public skepticism. Investigative reports found chicken strips stuffed with fillers, and yet the company stayed silent, hoping nostalgia could carry it through. Meanwhile, the world moved on. Gen Z and millennials gravitated toward cleaner, more transparent food. Brands like Sweetgreen and Kava surged, offering real vegetables and proteins with clarity. Subway's menu is stagnant. Its stores are often dim, worn, and uninviting. Bread, vegetables, and deli meats, once affordable staples, have jumped in price by 15 to 35% since 2021, slamming franchisees with soaring costs and thin margins. Many are now losing money just keeping the lights on. And when Subway falls, it's the erasure of a daily routine. There went the $5 combo that helped millions of middle-class or low-income people make it through the week. The corner sandwich shop that felt like your place vanished. Small farms that supplied fresh vegetables, local bakeries that provided bread, and trucking companies that moved these goods, all stand to lose business they've depended on for decades. Subway once offered a quiet kind of comfort, the power to choose, the ability to afford, the feeling that you were feeding your family something halfway decent. Now, even that illusion is slipping. And when a sandwich no longer feels safe, maybe what's crumbling isn't just bread, but a whole way of life. If you think this collapse is just about sandwiches, wait until you see what's happening to the next chain. Number 4, IHOP. When the last place open at 2 a.m. starts shutting its doors, you know something's slipping through America's fingers. Founded in 1958, IHOP was once a weekend ritual for millions. At its height in the early 2010s, it had over 1,700 locations across the United States. It wasn't just about pancakes, it was about comfort, coffee refills, booths filled with retirees chatting after church, night shift workers catching breakfast before dawn. The all-you-can-eat pancakes combos were more than meals. They were affordable moments of connection. But in 2025, that griddle is cooling fast. Same-store sales grew only 1.1% in Q3 of 2024, far behind competitors like First Watch and Cracker Barrel. Since 2020, over 100 IHOP locations have quietly disappeared. Franchise owners, especially in high-cost states like California and New York, are struggling to stay open as ingredient prices have soared by up to 35%. Labor costs are surging, with minimum wage laws pushing hourly pay beyond $20. IHOP's menu hasn't kept up. Gen Z wants protein bowls, smoothie bars, and non-dairy lattes, but IHOP remains heavy on carbs, oil, and outdated vibes. Attempts at reinvention, like protein pancakes, feel more like afterthoughts than transformation. And when IHOP disappears, it takes more than just pancakes with it. Retirees lose their morning gathering place. Students and late shift workers lose the one spot open round the clock. Families working 2 jobs lose their $7 breakfast. Not just a restaurant fading, but a way of life thinning out. Because if even breakfast, the most basic joy, no longer feels affordable, what's left to start the day with hope? Number 5, Red Lobster. You saved up for it, you dressed a little nicer, and for once. Seafood didn't feel out of reach. That was Red Lobster. And now, it's filing for bankruptcy. Founded in 1968, Red Lobster was never about luxury. It was about bringing lobster tails and snow crab within reach of the working class. In the early 2000s, it operated over 700 locations, filled with birthday candles, anniversary dinners, and first ever bites of shrimp. The Cheddar Bay biscuits alone became a symbol of comfort food for families who couldn't afford 5-star dining but still wanted to feel special. By 2025, that warmth is vanishing. In May 2024, Red Lobster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Same-store sales have declined 4% year over year. Dozens of locations closed in just over 12 months. The parent company, Thai Union, reported a staggering $19 million in losses in Q4/2023 alone. Debt now exceeds $400 million and many remaining stores are bleeding money. Behind the collapse is a chain of brutal realities. Seafood costs have surged by 30 to 60% due to climate pressure, declining fisheries, and fuel hikes. Red Lobster, once built on affordable shellfish, raised prices alienating the very families it served. Add rising labor costs, shrinking portions, and clumsy digital upgrades, and the result is a hollowed-out experience that feels less like a treat and more like settling. When Red Lobster closes, it severs more than jobs, it erases milestones. For many, it was the only time they tasted lobster, the only place a father could afford to treat his kids, the only dinner where a teenager on a summer job could feel proud paying the bill. If that vanishes, what else are we quietly told we can no longer have? Number 6, the Cheesecake Factory. What if the one restaurant where you used to feel a little rich suddenly became too expensive for everyone? That's what's happening at the Cheesecake Factory. Once the gold standard for affordable luxury, it served up celebration without guilt. Families dined out for birthdays. Couples marked anniversaries. A $30 dinner here felt like a reward without needing a 5-star reservation. Its signature a menu longer than a novel, with over 250 dishes from Thai lettuce wraps to Cajun pasta to miso salmon, and of course, the cheesecake. But by 2025, the price of indulgence is turning people away. Same-store sales dropped 3.8% in Q4/2024. Net debt has passed $500 million in cities like Los Angeles and New York. Average meal prices now exceed $28 per person, pricing out the very middle-class customers who once made it their go-to celebration spot. The problems run deeper than just inflation. That famously massive menu, it now creates massive waste excess labor, spoiled ingredients, slow kitchen prep. Meanwhile, Gen Z diners are choosing health, speed, and sustainability. Cheesecake Factory's creamy. Oversized portions feel outdated, indulgent in the wrong way. And the consequences stretch beyond shrinking profit. For many working Americans, this was the one place to treat themselves without shame. A restaurant where a young worker could buy dinner for a date, where office colleagues once gathered to share slices and stories, where lunch breaks didn't feel like budgeting nightmares. Now, those gatherings are fading. And when we lose places that once made ordinary people feel special, we lose more than dinner, we lose access to joy. Number 7, TGI Fridays. TGI Fridays used to be the pulse of the weekend. Born in 1965 in New York, it pioneered the casual dining movement. By the 1990s and 2000s, it had grown to over 1,000 locations worldwide. It was where young professionals went for happy hour, where families treated themselves without guilt, and where every Jack Daniel's rib or cheap cocktail felt like a small, well-earned win. Thank God It's Friday wasn't just a slogan, it was a lifestyle. But as of early 2025, fewer than 300 locations remain in the US. That's a 70% collapse from its peak. Same-store sales dropped 5% in 2024, and dozens of international branches were shuttered in an effort to stop the financial bleeding. Many US locations now operate only part-time, as foot traffic hits historic lows. What happened TGI Fridays never changed. Its menu is still loaded with fried cheese, heavy meats, and syrupy drinks while younger customers seek fresher, cleaner, customizable food. The once vibrant decor now feels dated, and the vibe no longer connects with anyone under 40. Local eateries and fast casual chains like BJ's Brewhouse or Shake Shack have quietly taken over the very role Fridays used to own. But this isn't just about one restaurant fading. When Fridays disappear, we lose more than nachos and birthday songs. We lose a rare middle ground where people didn't have to choose between dollar menu cheapness and luxury dining. We lose jobs. Each store employs 40 to 60 people. And for older customers, it's another familiar door quietly closing. Fridays once gave you a reason to leave the house, a reason to say, "We made it." And when even that disappears, what's left to toast to? Number 8, Chili's. There was a time when the sound of sizzling fajitas meant something. It meant laughter, plates clinking, and friends gathering without checking their wallets twice. Chili's. Founded in 1975, once defined the middle ground of American dining. With over 1,600 global locations at its peak, it brought Tex-Mex comfort baby back ribs, molten cheese, $5 margaritas to the everyday family. It wasn't fancy, but it felt generous, loud, warm, real. Now, the heat is fading. By late 2024, Chili's reported near zero same-store sales growth, while still holding about 1,200 US locations. Closures have quietly spread across the Midwest and South. Meanwhile, fast casual brands like Chipotle or local taco trucks have stolen the hearts and dollars of younger diners. The problem Chili's didn't evolve. Its menu, heavy on cheese and fried items, clashes with Gen Z's taste for clean, fast, flexible food. It's not authentic enough for foodies, and not modern enough for tech-savvy eaters. Rising ingredient costs beef up 28%, cheese up 22% have forced price hikes, thinning the margin of satisfaction. And if Chili's falls further, something else disappears with it. The casual sit-down dinner that doesn't break the bank. The small-town meetup spot when there's no movie theater, no cafe. A $12 plate that let people feel human again after a long day. Because when even the sizzle goes silent, are we losing just a meal? Or the last space where connection still felt possible? Number 9, Boston Market. You could smell comfort before stepping inside Boston Market. Warm rotisserie chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, steamed veggies, all wrapped in the quiet dignity of a $10 meal that tasted like home. Founded in 1985 as Boston Chicken, the brand exploded in the 90s with more than 1,200 locations across America for working-class families. It wasn't just food. It was a substitute for a dinner table served hot, affordable, and without judgment. But now, that warmth is fading. As of early 2025, fewer than 300 stores remain. Many operate erratically, short-staffed and riddled with complaints. In New Jersey and other states, outlets have been shut down over unpaid wages and health code violations. Lawsuits over labor issues have hit more than 27 branches, while same-store sales plunged by over 7% in 2024, far worse than industry averages. What went wrong after being sold to Engage Brands in 2020? Boston Market stagnated. The menu never evolved, leadership rarely invested, and as food trends shifted toward cleaner, faster options like Kava, Costco's $5 rotisserie chicken swiftly stole the spotlight. Meanwhile, full bird prices surged over 30%, squeezing already thin margins. If Boston Market collapses, it's not just one more chain gone. It's the end of a rare thing, a meal that felt like it cared. For seniors living alone, for single parents on the edge, for towns with no other choices, it was more than lunch. It was warmth they could afford. What happens when even that warmth cools into silence? Number 10, Ruby Tuesday. No reservation needed. Just a seat at the salad bar, a handcrafted burger, and the feeling that you belonged somewhere between home and celebration. Founded in 1972, Ruby Tuesday peaked in the 2000s with over 900 global locations for small-town America. It was more than a restaurant, it was the unofficial town square. Kids after school, parents on weekends, retirees on Tuesday afternoons, it served them all. But by 2024, fewer than 200 branches remain. The company's Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2020 trimmed the fat, but didn't fix the rot. Same-store sales fell 6% in 2024, outpacing the industry's average decline. Many franchise owners have quietly returned the keys, walking away from a brand they no longer recognize. Why Ruby Tuesday failed to evolve? Its decor, menu, and messaging feel frozen in a pre-Instagram world. The salad bar, once its crown jewel, now feels risky, even dated. Digital ordering lags far behind competitors. Meanwhile, ingredients like beef and fresh greens have surged in price by over 30%. If Ruby Tuesday vanishes, it takes with it more than jobs or a meal. It takes the last gathering spot in many towns where middle-class families didn't need to budget weeks in advance, and older patrons still felt welcomed. What replaces a place that never tried to impress, only to serve with quiet warmth? Number 11, Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake once captured everything nostalgic about the classic American diner chrome counters, sizzling burgers, hand-spun milkshakes, and the quiet hum of fluorescent light past midnight. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt real. Founded in 1934 in Illinois, it became a regional staple across the Midwest and South by the 2000s. With more than 600 locations, it served late-night workers, after-school teens, and working-class families alike, offering full table service at fast food prices. Now, the sizzle has dulled. By 2024, fewer than 450 stores remain. Over 100 locations have permanently closed since the pandemic. Store-level sales continue their 5-year decline, with a 5% drop just in 2024. Franchisee losses, lawsuits, and closures are mounting. Debt has crossed $150 million, and many outlets are visibly aging, underfunded, and underperforming. Attempts at modernization have backfired. Switching to self-service kiosks alienated older loyalists, while failing to attract Gen Z diners. Complaints about watery milkshakes, cold food, and slow service flood Yelp and Google. Meanwhile, competition has intensified. Shake Shack and Five Guys dominate the premium burger space, while McDonald's and Wendy's still win on speed. If Steak and Shake disappears, night shift workers in small towns lose their last 24/7 refuge. Older Americans lose a piece of their cultural memory, and communities across the heartland lose one of the few cross-generational gathering spots that felt genuinely theirs. Maybe that booth by the window was never just a seat. It was a pause, a comfort, a slice of the America that once waited for you, any time of day. Number 12, Buka Deepo. At its peak, Buka Deepo wasn't just a restaurant, it was a celebration. Walls covered in family photos, garlic hanging from the ceiling, massive tables packed with shared pastas. It was designed for noise, chaos, and laughter. In the early 2010s, with over 100 locations, it was the go-to spot for birthdays, reunions, and multi-generational dinners. But in August 2024, Buka Deepo filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. As of 2025, only 44 stores remain. Dozens closed overnight, leaving guests with canceled reservations and unanswered calls. Parent company Planet Hollywood had already slashed investments, leaving the chain frozen in time while competitors evolved. Buka's model now feels painfully outdated. Today's diners, especially Gen Z, prefer individual portions, lighter meals, and quicker service. A giant bowl of carbonara for $5 no longer excites. In a post-COVID world, the communal table has lost its appeal. And with mozzarella, beef, and tomatoes up over 30% since 2021, the cost of keeping Buka's oversized dishes on the menu is unsustainable. If the chain disappears, America will lose one of the last places made for messy, boisterous, all-together eating. Suburban communities lose an affordable venue for life's milestones. And thousands of part-time restaurant workers, many young or single parents, will face sudden unemployment, somewhere between fast casual and white tablecloth dining. Buka held space for chaos, comfort, and connection. But now, that table is clearing out, and with it, A whole style of gathering is fading too. Number 13, Rubios. Rubios opened in 1983 with a simple promise of fresh, beachside taste of Baja California. Their signature fish taco crispy pollock, cabbage, creamy sauce quickly became a West Coast icon. By the early 2010s, with over 200 stores across California, Arizona, and Nevada, Rubios had redefined quick Mexican-American dining. But in June 2024, Rubios abruptly shuttered 48 California locations, over one-third of its entire footprint. By early 2025, fewer than 100 remain, mostly clustered around San Diego. The company has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy again, buried under over $70 million in debt. Rising seafood costs and rent have choked operations, forcing quiet closures and mass layoffs. The chain's fall isn't just about numbers. Rubios couldn't keep pace with fast casual upstarts like Cava and Sweet Green. Gen Z diners found the menu outdated, lacking protein options, customization, or support for modern diets. California's soaring labor and real estate costs didn't help, especially for a brand that never fully scaled beyond its coastal roots. If Rubios disappears, California loses more than a chain, it loses a piece of its culinary identity. For many, Rubios was the affordable taste of summer light, coastal, comforting. The brand once filled a unique middle ground, healthier than fast food, cheaper than full service. But that space is narrowing, and as the fish taco fades, so does a small but irreplaceable flavor of the American West. The fall of these once beloved restaurant chains is more than just a business story. It's a quiet unraveling of our everyday comfort. Each closure chips away at the places where birthdays were celebrated, first dates happened, and tired families found an affordable meal after work, when the last plate is served. We lose more than just food, we lose community, memory, and a small piece of stability. As the lights dim in familiar corners of America, we're left asking what's next to vanish and who, if anyone, will still serve the people who built their lives around these tables.